Hello, and welcome to Friday with Fran. I'm in a weird mood today. I just told Fran that before we went live. I said, so I don't know what's going to happen and what's going to come out of my mouth. Weird things happen when I'm in a weird mood. I'll just let you know that in advance. So stick around
Okay.
and see what kind of weird things happen this episode. Oh, there's Cooper.
Oh, yeah, he was on my lap, and my sister was holding up a piece of paper with a note telling me what she was doing if she didn't know if we were on or not.
Oh, gotcha. So this is Friday with Fran, and I am one host, Shelly, and this, I got it right, is Fran,
Yeah, we
and she's
switched.
the other co-host. And we just talk about things related to the world of special education, raising children with disabilities, and being people with disabilities. So, how are you today, Fran?
It has been a whirlwind of a day already.
Oh no.
Yeah, I had to run a medical appointment, and we got some shopping done, and we have Night to Shine tonight, and
Oh,
um, yeah, and I wanted to fit in one of my favorite things of the week, Friday with Fran, so we made it all happen.
awesome. So tell us about Night to Shine, because there might be people watching who don't know what that is.
It is a prom put on for people 14 years or older who happen to have special needs.
Awesome.
And it is put on by the Tim Tebow Foundation. And the crowning, notice I said crowning, moment of the night is when everybody is crowned a prom king or queen. And they
Oh,
get real crowns and tiaras that they
oh,
get to wear. So it is really super cool. And
that's
they have,
awesome.
depending on and they're hosted in different churches throughout the country, throughout the world actually. And it all happens on the same night.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So
you know what? I've heard about this, and sometimes he pops in,
yep,
doesn't he?
and he flies around in a jet and pops in at different ones.
That's
And
crazy.
there's limousine rides, there's karaoke, they have shoe shining, they have people doing hair and makeup, or I don't know, hair and nails. I don't think makeup, hair and nails. They have food normally, and there's dancing, and then they provide for people. Like I'm driving around the clock away just to take my daughter to this one because
Hmm.
there's none any closer. And they call them respite rooms so that we have somewhere to go so we can stay on site rather than try
Oh,
to kill
nice.
time while it's going on.
Right.
But the cool thing is, my daughter's not just going and gonna have to find somebody or try to make do. They pair them with a special buddy for the whole night.
Oh,
So this is a whole outreach of they have to get so many volunteers. Like there's supposed to be 150 individuals at the one to which we're going.
wow.
I'm not
150 participants?
Yes.
Wow. And does she know anyone that's also going, or is everyone going to
No.
be new? Okay.
Everyone will be new for her.
Wow. And
And I
how is
think
she?
that is what caused our disagreement earlier
Aha.
because she's anxious and nervous, and when she's anxious and nervous, I'm her safe person.
Right.
And
So,
sometimes I forget I'm that safe person.
yeah, it's hard, especially in the moment when you're dealing with the uh, consequences, I guess, of being
Yeah.
the sick person. So, what
But
is
do you
she?
remember what you discovered the other day?
Yeah,
Your realization.
yeah,
It took me a little bit, but I remembered. It only it. How many does it take for a power struggle?
right.
And I remembered, so I just stopped and went into my room.
Good. And did it help this time too?
Yes, it did.
Yay! That's so exciting. So, for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, last week's episode, um, I had this realization that I shared, and it's that if there's a power struggle, there's at least two people involved in that power struggle. And so we talked about that on last week's episode. And then today, I found this cool thing within StreamYard that I could cut that little bit out and make it into a reel. And it was so super simple. And I saw that you already
Uh-oh.
liked it. So I already
Yeah.
know that you saw it.
Yes, I did.
Hey, Alex, how are you? It's been a while. Good to
Hi,
see you
Alex.
here. So yeah, that I hope to do more of those through either our podcasts or from my
Your
hashtag
hashtag
no
no
limits.
limits. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, especially with what you and I talk about. Well, really in both shows, but there's a lot of really good nuggets, and to just be able to go in and take. I think that one was a minute long, which I don't know. The little red hand goes around the clock once.
Okay.
Okay. And so yeah. So it was really good because we got to like that. I was able to get that whole little segment in there. Oh,
He's very needy right now, and I'm trying to figure out what he's needing.
aw. Did he have a sweater on before, or was that just your arm over him that I thought
That
was a
was just
sweater?
my arm.
Oh, okay.
Well, oh no, it was the
Oh, the blanket.
blanket
Oh, okay.
because
Aw.
it's cold in my office. Well, it's cold in my house because I don't turn the heat on, except in the rooms we're normally in. Anyway,
Right.
but
Gotcha.
you asked about Allie. Sorry, I
Yeah.
took us on a detour. You asked
That's
about
okay.
Allie
Yeah.
and
So,
her dress. We found this is the cool thing. I know that God has been ordering our steps with this thing because it randomly showed up. I don't know how, if it was an email I got from the Tim Tebow Foundation that reminded me about it. So I Googled it, found the closest one. They were still accepting people. And then we had to find a dress because Allie's changed sizes recently.
hmm.
And so I was like, in the past, through the high school, they've had these programs where you can get free or really cheap dresses
Mm-hmm.
through different organizations in our county. And I was like, well, we can't tap that resource anymore. What are we going to do? And we went to a, like a resale place, not quite like Goodwill, but kind of like that. And found a dress that fit her perfectly. And they
Awesome.
no longer have dressing rooms. So we had to try it on over her t shirt. And it was like, okay, let's hope this works.
Oh, yeah.
And but we made it a special day for her, and we took my sister and I and Allie went, and we got the dress and got shoes. We even found shoes that fit perfectly. So I
Wow.
mean, God was lining everything up.
Yeah,
And then we went to
exactly.
eat, and then we just made it a special day for her.
That's awesome.
So, yep.
And so you said that she is nervous and anxious about it. Do you feel comfortable sharing specifics about that, or would you rather not?
It's okay. I can. I don't think she would mind
Okay.
because she's comfortable with her differences. Um, she gets really anxious with crowds,
Mm-hmm.
and there's going to be a lot of people there,
Right.
and then also she doesn't know anybody, so
Right.
both of those things. And then also she gets anxious with loud noises, and so dances are loud, so we
Sure.
tend to avoid dances in general. But she really likes having being pampered,
Mm-hmm.
so I know she's excited about that, and she likes the karaoke.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, but because of her anxieties over this, she the asking her to do a few simple things that normally would not have set her over the edge, set her over the edge.
Right.
And in the moment, I forgot why she would be lashing out at me. And so it took a little bit, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So it's
Yeah.
hard for us that, but I get set off too. So I can't say for us that don't get, but it's hard when you're not the person anxious to see why these little things are bothering them.
Yeah. And I have a story that I can share that happened to me recently, if it's okay.
Sure.
So a few weekends ago, Kevin and I went to Phoenix, and I had the Master IEP Coach Mastermind, And then he just tagged along, and, we had a few hours on each day to, just he and I hang out. And so, coming back home, when we went out there, we had a straight through flight. But coming back home, we were going to have a layover. And layovers make me nervous because I always think, well, what happens if my plane coming in is late and, and I miss my connecting flight? It's never happened to me. It's not like I fly that often either, but I just know that that's a possibility. And so that makes me nervous. And then, for whatever reason, we chose for me to drive from the hotel to the airport, leaving Phoenix to return the rental car. And when we picked up the rental car, it was kind of a discombobulated incident. And then getting out of the garage was very windy and twisty. And so I was anxious about, like, what if I make a wrong turn? What if I don't get the car in time? And I was worried that the amount of time that he thought we needed compared to the amount of time that I thought we needed to get to the airport, return the car, go through security, get to our gate. I thought we needed more time. He thought we needed less. So we went with his time because he's in the past been the more frequent traveler as far as planes go. And so when I was driving, we had to follow the GPS. And because of thinking about all the things that I just explained, the very first turn out of the hotel, then I was like, I had to turn right, but then I had to get into the left lane immediately. And I couldn't get over into the left lane immediately. So then the GPS is, rerouting, redirecting, whatever it says. And so that increased my anxiety because I was like, oh my goodness, I missed the turn, and now, he's going to be upset with me, and which he wasn't. But he said something to me, and I looked at him and I said, I need you to stop. Like, I need you. I said, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, and it's taking every ounce of energy I have to focus on driving. And I can't deal with any sarcasm or joking or any of the stuff that on a regular day, I wouldn't be upset with him doing or saying. But on that day, in those moments, I was like, I just can't. Like, I just need you to, and he was like, well, why? And I said, well, I don't want to upset you. Well, I don't upset him most of the time. I mean, we've been together so long that we typically don't upset one another. And even if I do upset him, it usually doesn't bother me. But that day, because I was nervous and I was worried about everything, my anxiety was ramping up, and I couldn't, like, it was hard for me to even like listen to the GPS on his phone and look for the street signs and like remember if it said you were going to have to turn left or you're going to have to turn right or go straight or, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So I was really thankful that in that moment, God let me really experience it so that I could talk about it later. Because I don't know that I've always been able to do that in the past.
Been able to talk it out.
Yeah. And understand what was going on and be able to share it with Kevin so that, he could then treat me differently than he would have on a regular day.
Right. And I think that's key because you, in that time, was able to talk it out. But I don't think my daughter can talk it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't even think she's aware of why she just tore my head off.
Right. So I think for that, it would be good. Probably not today because she's going to be amped up all day long and even, into the evening as this event happens and coming home. But tomorrow or maybe the next day, just say, hey, you know what? I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you said this or you behaved this way, that was because you were angry, and just kind of like help her see,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what has helped me be able to identify, like, oh, I'm anxious and nervous about these things, and so this stuff is now bothering me when it normally wouldn't.
Okay, that's good. I've had people in my past that have said, not in the moment, but later, have said,
Yeah.
"Is something going on? I have no idea. I had this and this and this, and I was doing this, and once I get done saying, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this there was something. I had just too many things. I need to either delegate or just not take on that many
Right.
because it does amp up your anxiety and stress level. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And hopefully, somebody else will hear it and it will help as well, because it's a long process, and I mean, from the night before when we were talking about how much time we would need, um, I was already nervous. Like, I didn't sleep well. So when I don't sleep well, then, my anxiety tends to be easier ramped up than when I've had a good night's sleep.
Uh-huh.
Because when you have enough sleep, then your brain is able to function at full capacity. And without that, it sets things off almost automatically. So, um, I intend to write a blog about it eventually, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But it's definitely something in the last few years that I am starting to recognize in the moment when it's happening. And just like you're your daughter's safe person, Kevin is my safe person, and it happens more often when I'm with him. So,
Because you have your safe person there.
right, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Alex, do you have anything similar that you would like to share? Or anybody else listening?
Yeah,
Because it's a real thing.
it is.
Oh, there it is finally. I'm trying to download a picture out of Allie in her dress.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome if not, just be sure to get a picture tonight, and then next week when we have our episode with her nails done and her hair done, and
Yeah, I've got it's on the wrong screen, which means it's on top of you.
I do that all the time.
How do I share? Is that?
I feel like my face
Is
is
it?
very, very white today. Is it like, I don't feel like I have any color
No,
differentiation?
you you have color.
Okay. I moved my ring light, and so, aw,
That was the day we were there, and she has little silver bracelets on that
very pretty.
she purchased with her money that from her job. So
So she
it
got her
fits her
job back at
perfectly.
that place?
Yes.
Oh, yay.
So yes, she's been working there. So um, I'm gonna help her wash her hair when we're done today, and that way it's ready for them if they want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So and she's done her nails and her toes and
Aw,
ready.
that's exciting.
So anyway, I just wanted to share that. But doesn't that dress look like it was made just for her? It's the right length and everything.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It is perfect.
So
Do you think, when she, and I know that you've shown me pictures, and I think every time her hair has been down of other proms that she's attended, but does she have any idea like how she might want them to fix her hair? Or do they
I
just kind
think
of fix it? And
I think she just kind of lets them do whatever.
yeah.
I braided it like a headband braid.
Uh huh.
Sometimes she just likes it braided, but we'll see.
Yeah. That's
So
incredible. Here you are with braces on your hands, and I can't braid, and I don't have braces on my hands.
I
Sorry.
used to have really long hair, remember?
Yeah.
And I
I,
used to braid all of the girls on the cheerleading team and all
oh
the
my
girls
God.
on the basketball team in where I went to high school was in Germany, and our nearest opponent was sometimes like this many times around the clock away.
Right.
And so there was plenty of time in the bus to braid hair.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we would go and spend the night.
So Alex says, I think it being anxiety affects all of us. I definitely get affected by the numerous things around me and how I respond to others. I was late, but I think that's what you're talking about. My anxieties affect my reactions. Yep, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, that was really good. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it does. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You go first.
Nope, go.
Well, I just am thinking that there is true anxiety, and then there are people who get anxious or get nervous occasionally, and there's a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying you have to have the diagnosis, but I definitely have the diagnosis of anxiety and panic disorder.
Yeah, as do I don't have panic disorder, but I have generalized anxiety, and
Yeah.
my daughter has anxiety.
Yeah. And so there are times when I talk about my anxiety and people will say, oh, well, I get anxious about this or that. And I'm like, that's not the same. Like the circumstances or the scenario that they're referring to. And I think it's them trying to empathize, but it sounds demeaning.
It makes you feel as if you don't matter. What you're saying, it minimizes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of comparing yourself, just allow that person to express themselves.
Right.
Is that fair assessment?
I think so. So what were you going to say?
I was thinking, so how do we help our loved ones when they're in the midst of an anxiety / panic attack / how do we allow them to be there and not push them through it, but to experience it how they need to, but how do we support them in it?
I think one of the things that you just said, is that you're not trying to diminish it. And you're acknowledging that for that person, it's real and it's intense. And that they don't have control over it necessarily. Yeah. Alex says one is to acknowledge it. Absolutely.
And
I agree.
And she also said something else.
That, her anxiety affects most of what she does or doesn't do. And that's absolutely true. Even if you're not seeing it on my face, I mean, there isn't probably a person on the planet who knows me better than Kevin. And he didn't know that I was dealing with it that morning.
Mm-hmm.
So, I get frustrated, I think, the most when I talk about anxiety of a student with an IEP team. And the parent knows the anxiety and sees the anxiety, and the team will, the other members of the team will say something like, that's kind of when I hear that, oh, well, I have anxiety too, or, oh, my staff are anxious right now. No, that's not the same thing.
You can be anxious, but that doesn't mean you have anxiety. There's a huge difference.
Right. Yeah. I also tend not to show it, says Alex. Yeah, and I mean, there are as many different ways to express and show that anxiety as there are individuals in the world. Or maybe not in the world, but as who have the diagnosis. Because for me, it doesn't always manifest in me the same way. Sometimes, like earlier today, I was writing an email and I was very concerned about how the email would be received. And so my heart was racing, my hands were shaking. But then there's other times when, like that day of driving, like I had to really like focus everything else out and only focus on the, the driving directions. And I couldn't handle any external stimuli. This morning, typing the email, external stimuli didn't bother me. So when I hear teachers say, well, they don't show signs of anxiety in class. Well, how do you know? There's this great but horrible word called masking.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone who doesn't know what masking is, it's just think about it. It's like you're putting on one face, but there's a whole lot of things happening behind that facial expression
Right.
that may not be related to the facial expression. And it doesn't just happen with anxiety. It happens with people with autism, and people with ADHD, and pretty much anybody who has a disability. I think that's invisible.
I would agree.
And probably to some degree those who have visible disabilities but don't want people to know maybe the true amount of pain that they're in, or the true amount of suffering, or
Like, I think we can translate it even to those that have illnesses, that physical illnesses that attack their bodies.
Right. Yeah. Because people say, oh, I didn't know they were that sick, or, oh, I didn't know it was that much pain. That's masking. You're right.
Right. So I really want to touch on ways that we can help our loved ones or ourselves work through that moment and to process it, and then to maybe handle it better in the future, or different, not maybe not better, but differently in the future. How are some ways we can do that?
Do you have any to start with?
No, I figured that's more your cup of tea than my cup of tea. I just thought I would like reverse roles today and facilitate it and allow you to. I just wasn't telling you that.
Oh, great. Thanks. Okay. Appreciate the heads up. Well, I mean, I
If
think,
I have something come up, I'll share it. But
okay.
I mean, that it really is things that you better have studied and have a better grasp of.
Well,
Mine are just layman things.
I think a lot of mine comes from years of counseling and trying to work through the anxiety and with the anxiety, and, learning about myself and how it manifests in me. So, I'm not sure that the things that I would say would truly apply to anybody else, but
And yeah, if anybody else has something to share.
yeah, what Alex says, I think the big thing is to let them talk about it and have them talk about what they're feeling. And if they can do that, I absolutely agree. But like you said with your daughter, she didn't necessarily, or doesn't necessarily know that she's dealing with it right now. So I think what we said before about, when she's not in the midst of it, take that time and talk to her about, hey, when your body was doing this, or when you said this, or when you reacted this way.
Yesterday, when you threw the pan at me,
Right.
do
Yikes.
you really want to know what you were feeling?
Right.
Were you nervous about the dance?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yes, I was. Okay, so
Yeah.
could we have done something different than throw the pan?
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can't do it in the moment. And the reason you can't do
No.
it in the moment is because the person isn't their normal, rational self at that time. And so therefore they're not going to be able to process what you're saying. And that goes for like big screaming fits of any kind of behavior. Whatever that communication is behind that behavior, always
You
have
have that really
follow-up.
cool graphic.
Yeah.
De-escalating, escalating, and how
Right.
yeah.
I'll see if I can find that again, to pop that up there. But yeah, absolutely. Our logical abilities, although Kevin says women logic is very illogical most of the time anyway.
Thanks, Kevin.
Right? Oh yeah, there's a side note. I have to tell you about a side note. But yeah, so our ability to logically think goes down the higher into an emotional moment we go. Trying to remember which of my presentations
I know.
put it in.
I remember to jump off of what you're saying, our ability to think, the reason and think. I remember a time someone came up to me and just put their hands on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm trapped. That was my initial thought.
Oh, right.
But then it was like, once I got over the fact that this person loves me and I'm not trapped, then I was like, why are they holding on to me? And then I was able to look them in the face and they said, you have got to get a grip. You're all over the place. And I don't know what's going on, but what do you need me to do? Is what they said to me.
That's good.
And so that really helped. But in the moment, at first, I really did. I felt trapped because I was so all over the place that just someone reaching out and touching me threw me for a loop.
Right. Yeah. I found it. Now I've got to make it so that I can slide. So the thing that I was going to tell you about the logic was, I said Kevin thinks pretty much all female logic is illogical. So the other day we were visiting my mom and she was explaining something to me and I was not understanding her logic at all in her steps that she was explaining to me. And so I looked at Kevin and I said, he goes, no. He's like, there's no way I'm going to try to explain your mom's logic to you or vice versa, because I can't understand either one of you most of the time or can't follow your logic most of the time. And so he was like, no, I'm not even going to go there at all.
That's funny.
So yeah, here it is. And I wonder, I don't think I can make it. Nope. Oh, shoot. That's not what I wanted to do. I was going to try to make that portion of it bigger so that people could see it a little bit better. But yeah, like here's the word trigger. And then as we go up into agitation and escalation, then the line down here is the student cognition or the other person. I mean, this particular example was about students and teachers. And then the next line right above it is, as the student gets escalated, the staff tend to start getting escalated. And then as their escalation increases, their cognition also goes down.
Right.
So the more any of us get emotionally into a situation, the less our cognition is. So I'm going to stop sharing that now. And Alex,
sharing that.
Sure. Another thing is to try not to react to others in the moment if you know they're anxious and maybe unrealistic in their actions. Like we said, talk about it at a later date. Yeah.
Sometimes taking the emotions out of it, then you're able to, just like your graphic show, taking those emotions out, you're able to take yourself out of it.
Right. And if somebody's in a panic attack mode or an anxiety attack, and they're just really future focused, which oftentimes that's what anxiety is. And like, if you think about my story that I shared earlier, it was all things I was worried about happening in the future. We're going to get to the airport in time. I was going to have difficulty getting the car into the rental return. We were going to miss our next flight, and I didn't even care about the weather. I didn't even think about the weather, which actually ended up being the issue. But mine was it was all future focused. And so if you find yourself in that situation, and if you have the ability to pull yourself in a little bit, focusing on what's happening right here and right now in this moment, there's 5 steps that I use sometimes with other people I often don't think about doing them for myself until it's later. But this is one of those reasons why having a visual reminder is very helpful. Like last week, I showed my scriptures that I have on my computer next to the monitor. This is one of those things where, and I actually have made these. It's the 5 steps, and like the first step is you find a color, you pick any color, and then you find 5 of those colors around you. And then the fourth one is you pick a shape, and then you find 4 things that have that shape. And then 3 is you smell 3 different things. 2 is you listen for 2 different sounds. And then 1 is you take a slow deep breath in through your nose to the count of 4. You hold it for 4, and then, 4, and then you let it out to the count of 4. And then you repeat those steps. But the great thing about this particular strategy is you can interchange steps 5, 4, and 3 and 2. So maybe instead of smelling 2 different smells, you smell 5 different smells. So instead of 2 smells, you smell 5. Or instead of 5 colors, you find 3 colors. So, and I've actually made those onto, I've made graphics so that they're in words, but I also have them in pictures for young kids who maybe aren't reading, or if you're in such a state that words, you can't even process the words. So it's just, like a picture of a nose or a picture of the eyes or a picture of the ears, just to remind myself. And I said, I don't do it as often for myself, but when I have those opportunities, and I can, and I think I shared about one time because I was in, I was in the shower and some cold water hit my face, and I went right back to, just, which it's very irrational to panic and think you're going to drown in your own shower, but that's what anxiety does. It's not rational.
Right.
So, doing something like that and it doesn't have to be those exact 5 steps, but bringing the person into reality, like holding their face, if they'll let you get close to touch them, and having them look you right in the eye. Similar to what you said about the person who put their hands on your shoulder, that it was, they were trying to, hey, you're here, you're safe, it's okay. But not knowing what they were doing that for, that wasn't your first initial reaction. And so, doing something like that where it's like, it's okay, you're okay, I'm here with you, we're safe, we're secure, try to get them to take a deep breath, but you have to keep your voice calm.
And you can't allow your emotions to become involved in the midst of it.
Yeah. And like I said, those are a lot of the things that have worked for me and have worked for people that I know, but those won't necessarily work for every single person. For some people, you may have to physically get them up and walk. That may be the thing that, and you can start talking to them about, hey, what's the weather doing today? What's, if they're, if something that they're interested in, and you can bring up a question about that. Just getting their mind away from that future focus back to the present focus.
Right. I was thinking, something my daughter does is, she has one of those fidget spinner things.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets really, really anxious, and I've seen her pull it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And and I don't have them. I actually threw mine away because I didn't use it in so long, but you know how I used to take the plastic ring from my soda bottle, which I haven't had soda, at my house since, January 9th. So,
what are you going to do without a ring?
Right. So, but there are actual rings that you can buy that are fidget rings.
I actually got a ring at the Sight and Sound Theater.
Mm-hmm.
It had the armor of God on it, but the center of it was a chain, and you could spin the chain. It was
so cool.
But it was way too big, so I gave it to somebody.
Oh, Well, but that's a good idea. But yeah, I mean, fidget things, sensory things, sometimes being able to hold something or squeeze something, or there are like the weighted blankets, or there are weighted vests or pressure vests or clothing. Sometimes that helps people kind of, get out of that panic
Oh,
state.
that reminds me of the other day I was having a rough go of it, and my cat, I call her my untrained emotional support cat. She jumped up on my recliner and just walked up me till her head was right here and her paws were on either side. And she's a really heavy, fat cat. And
Hmm.
so just the pressure of her and the warmth and the fuzziness, if she's a fuzzy cat,
Hmm.
all of that I think really helps
Yeah.
having her do her untrained emotional support.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they've said that animals are perceptive to those kinds of things. Yeah, remind the person to stay right in the moment, both physically and mentally. And
That goes with your future focused and
right, and I will definitely tell you what doesn't work is if somebody just tells me to calm down or settle down
right.
or it's no big deal.
Just get a grip.
Right, get a grip. Those things are not helpful. And there was a meme that went around, and I've shared it a few times, and I probably need to share it again. But it was like one of those billboard signs that you can change, and it said, "Never in the history of calming down has someone calmed down when another person said, 'Calm down,'" because I mean it's never worked for anybody that I've ever known.
No. I am calm. What are you talking about?
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yelling is not helpful. Blaming, not helpful.
clapping your hands in their face is not helpful.
Not helpful. No. In fact, if somebody were to do that to me, I'd probably slap them.
So these are not the things to put in your toolbox, is what we're saying. These are the things to put in the trash bin.
Exactly. Take these out
Mm.
of your toolbox if they're in there. But it is. I mean, it's so very important. And going back to the graphic that I shared, which I can share it again actually because I haven't put it away, um, is this part over here. As we're calming down, and as our logical and rational thinking is coming back to our typical level,
Mhm.
um, you know, that's when you can maybe do some of the things. Maybe saying calm down would be better, but in that area, but it's still even really not a good approach. And they call that, and this comes from shoot, I did it again. This comes from Dr. Richard Van Acker, and he is, in my opinion, a behavior guru. He works
Mhm.
for the University of Illinois at Chicago, I think. And he developed this. He and his daughter, they had done multiple studies, and this was what they came up with. But there's also an organization called the Crisis Prevention Institute, and they teach about it's and it's there. The way that they draw it is in the shape of a kite, but it's kind of similar. Like there are some things that you can do at certain stages that you can't do at other stages.
Right.
And on this de-escalation side, what they talk about is what I was kind of alluding to before is that therapeutic rapport, which I know
Mhm.
it's not mentioned here. It's in the CPI one, the Crisis Prevention Institute. But it's if you've had an episode like this with someone, that you can go back afterward and sort of mend the fence. If you've had a negative reaction with that person in that time, then that therapeutic rapport helps you and them, like, okay, we both said things we didn't want to say, or we acted in ways we, wouldn't normally act if we were both in our rational state of mind, but it's also at that time where that's kind of what you're going to do with your daughter when you go and say, hey, the day that you had the dance and you did this and you threw the pan and you said this, like, that's all kind of what that therapeutic rapport is.
And I was going to say, we tend to do that. And there have been a few times in life where she's initiated it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really powerful when she initiated it. Because I don't always know if even when we have these times, if it really sinks in. But it helps me at least feel like we've touched base on it and ended it in maybe not a positive note, but at least a resolved note.
Yeah. And with the therapeutic rapport, the timing of it, of when it happens, is different for each person and each scenario. If when you start to talk about it again, it ramps the person back up, then that's not the time. They're not ready to talk about it yet. But you still, and sometimes it's, depending on how big the incident was, it could be several days, or, I don't think more than a church day to a church day amount of time, but which for anyone who's listening and doesn't know, that's our way of saying a week. And then we do that because Fran, the stroke that she had several years ago, affected her ability to understand sense of numbers and time. And so you'll hear us say things occasionally, or you'll see me showing my fingers. And that's to help her understand a little bit better of what we're talking about. And yeah, so, sometimes it can be a few hours, sometimes, a few times around the clock, but other times it is days.
Right.
And yeah, Alex, this is true. Something I needed recently was validation that it's okay to not be okay. Did you get that from one of my posts? Because I post something about that almost like I try to post it at least once a month, but I don't always get it that often. But absolutely, we've gotten away
society tells us it's not. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
It's important to have that validation.
Yep. Yeah. You don't want to live in a state of not being okay. Then you probably should be seeking some professional help. But, if you have a few hours or, oh, darn. You mean I'm not your therapist too? You mean the Friday with Fran is not what this is for you? No, I'm just kidding. We are definitely not professionally trained. But
we're just sharing our life experiences.
Yeah. And yeah, if you're having, a bad day, or even a few bad days, or again, depending on how big the thing is, it might be a few months, it might be a few calendars. So I wouldn't go more than a few months without seeking professional help.
I'm not being okay.
I know some people don't even, at a few months, they're like, no, I'm fine. I don't need anybody. I'm not going to open up to anybody anyway, so I'm not going to go waste my time, or nobody's going to understand what I'm going through. And they may not be able to understand the exact experience that you're having, but they'll probably be able to help you through it, and at least let you talk about it in a way that is non-judgmental.
And the cool thing is, if the person you chose to see, you don't connect, you can always find somebody else. You're not stuck with that person. You need to find someone you're comfortable with.
Yep, absolutely. And they have great free systems, like you can call the mental health hotline now, and just talk to somebody. And that number is 988 for anyone who might need that number. And
you can text that number as well.
Yes. Yep. And then there's There's another number that you can text. It's 717171, I believe. It's been a while since I've talked about that, so I'm not sure. Let me see what that does. If I type that in. Nope, that's not the right number. Okay. I'm going to Google it to make sure that I get the right thing in here.
Okay.
And maybe they've taken it away since they have 988 now.
Maybe.
741741. Okay. So let me type that in here. I gotta remember how my brain just went blank. Like, where do I type this to put it up on the screen?
So I know what Shelley and I both want everyone to know is you're not alone.
Right.
And there are so many resources out there. Shelley just put up numbers you can call or text. They're free.
Yeah. And they'll talk to you. I've not personally used it. I have my own therapist, so I've not had to use the services, but they are out there. And don't buy into the stigma of having a therapist means you're crazy. I don't think that stigma is as bad as it used to be when I first started going to a therapist, but I think it is still out there. And I just think, it's one of those things that the more people talk about the fact that they go to one or they have one, that stigma is going to go away. I don't think people look at me and think that I'm crazy. Well,
well, Shelley, I wasn't going to tell you, but
darn it. Okay. I mean, people who know me well probably look at me and think that, but maybe the people who just look at me on an average day don't think that.
My daughter told me I was crazy the other day, and I said, certifiably so. So onward and upward, let's go.
There you go. Embrace who you are, Fran. I think that so many people have added pressure that they are told it's not okay to have struggles, to just get over it. I've needed to hear it's okay to have struggles. It doesn't mean you are a failure. That is absolutely true. And thank you so much for sharing that, Alex, because we do. And I think it's because us not being okay makes the people around us uncomfortable. And they don't want to be uncomfortable. So they want us to get over whatever it is that we're dealing with.
That probably hits the nail on the head. I wanted to say hit the hammer with the nail, but that wasn't the right thing to say.
That wouldn't have the same effect.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it would go in if you were hitting the nail to the hammer. So
I get some things mixed up still.
Yeah. Well, it's all good. Like I told you when we started, I was feeling in a weird mood, so didn't know what we were going to talk about.
Nope. I didn't think this was where we were going, but it's okay. I think it was good.
Yeah. And yeah, there's so much with anxiety, and absolutely we have to look at, instead of failures, well, now we know that that's not right, or now we know that that doesn't work in that way, and so we try something else. The best example that I have for that is Edison and the light bulb, right? It's Edison and the light bulb, right?
Yes.
that he tried over, like, there's differing reports, like 500 to 1,000 different things before finding the thing that worked. Now, the average person,
Elements.
yeah, the average person might try that many things and then be like, I'm done. But he did that. I mean, like, I could be flashing my hands up for an hour and not hit the number of things that he tried. And his response supposedly was, all right, well, now I know that doesn't work. I'm going to go try to find something else.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, I mean, if he had said, well, I'm a failure, there's never going to be a light, a source that holds the light on via electricity, and just gave up on it, eventually somebody else probably would have come up with it, but thankfully he had the right attitude towards learning. I mean, I used to say that all the time to my students. Making a mistake is one of the best ways to learn, because exactly, now that wasn't it. What is it, and why was the other thing the right answer? And what are you doing to him? He looks like he's uncomfortable.
Well, he was like fighting me on my lap, so I thought he wanted to be, I don't know. He was hanging out.
Aw,
Say hi.
he makes me miss Jonas.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I'm sorry, Miss Jonas. I understand the loss, but I can't understand the loss of missing Jonas.
Yeah, thanks. I'm getting a lot better. I can say it without crying now. So, and I can look at Cooper and I don't feel sad.
Okay.
Because he does look
He
very
really
much like
does.
Jonas. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, Jonas had that kind of look before, like, Mom, what are you doing to me? Why are you holding me this way?
But he's escaping Yanko right now, so he's probably happy.
Ah, gotcha.
Yanko thinks he's a lap dog, 100-pound standard poodle that thinks he's a lap dog.
No. That doesn't work.
He climbs up on my lap.
I just remembered something, because we were talking about your number sense and your abilities, with numbers, and the fact that came from having a stroke. This coming Tuesday's #NoLimits is with a gentleman who developed a program after he was 12 when he did this, by the way. So like middle school age.
Okay.
And his grandmother had a stroke, and she wasn't learning the things that she had lost because of the stroke. And he developed this program that at first it wasn't an app, but then educators were coming to him because they had heard about it, and they were like, can you make this work for education? So be sure to tune in on Tuesday. And it's at 12:2 instead of 12:1, because he had a conflict at 12:1. So I'm sorry, 1:12. I'm saying them backwards. He had a conflict at 1:12, so it's at 2:12.
Oh no, I have a dentist.
Oh, well, it's a good thing that it lives on YouTube then, because then you can watch it later.
Okay.
And on my Facebook page. So the app is called Franalytics. So for anyone who's watching today and who, is interested, and you want to look it up between now and Tuesday, Franalytics. So cool. I'm very excited. It sounds like an amazing thing. And when he was telling me about it, you were who I was thinking of, like, oh, maybe this would help her too. So, because I know it's frustrating for you. Guess what?
Frustrating? Not as much anymore.
Good.
I think it's more frustrating for people around me.
You're not embarrassed by it anymore?
Me, I just go through life. Good. No, it's just who I am.
Good.
No, I'm not embarrassed by it anymore.
Awesome. That's wonderful. So yeah, I'm so glad we've had this time together. Who did that?
I have no idea.
Was it Carol Burnett? I think it was Carol Burnett.
Was it?
But yeah, it's time to say goodbye. It's getting really close.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so wrapping up, if you see on the bottom of the text, those are the numbers you can call if you are in need of help. Please don't feel that you are alone and there's no one out there. And we want you to know that you're not alone. And thank you for allowing us to share our journeys through life.
Yes.
Have a great week.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make sure you tune in Tuesday and come back and join us next Friday. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Alex, for joining and commenting.